The Saudi Pro League transfer window has officially slammed shut. That means that Liverpool will retain Mohamed Salah at least until January, but maybe until probably the summer, if I were to guess. I'm Sideline Sedo. I'm going to cover all the players that are mentioned in this article about who could potentially replace Salah or other avenues that Liverpool could pursue with the estimated 150 to 200 mil that a transfer of his nature would command in terms of fee. Before we continue, comment down below, who do you think Liverpool should replace Salah with, or what do you think Liverpool should do with the 150 to 200 million pounds that is reported to be the transfer fee should this transfer materialize next summer or in January. As always, if you end up liking the video or finding out something new, consider giving the video a like. And let's get right into it with this Athletic article, which basically says Liverpool's options to replace Salah: Mbappe, Saka, Bowen, Olise, or Kubo. There's more players in this article, and there's some players that I will mention at the end of this video, 4 more in particular, because there's 6 that are mentioned in this article. And the 4 that I'm going to suggest are players that Liverpool aren't currently maybe linked with or have been linked with in the past, or I think would just be a good fit from a stylistic perspective in the squad. But yeah, so let's start right at the top. These are solid stats. You can pause and look at it, but ridiculous stats, 0.99 goals in his first season. He's been just cooking ever since, getting more consistent with assists as well throughout his last couple of seasons, and has just been generally a beast. Even in his down season, 0.52 goals and 0.5 or 0.33 assists is just ludicrous. Also, games played is a huge thing for Salah. He's effectively an Iron Man for Liverpool, having only missed a maximum of 4 games in any Premier League season since joining 6 seasons ago. So that's huge. And you look at the percentages played here on the right. He's been, last season he played more minutes than ever before for Liverpool in the season. So the first possible replacement is Mbappe. And we're going to leave this article because it just kind of continues and explains some stuff, but we will return to it quickly. This is Salah's FBref profile. As you can see, very good stats, very elite metrics, and Moussa Diaby is the most similar player to Salah in terms of attacking mids and wingers over the last 365 days, according to FBref. But in terms of forwards, it is Mbappe. Mbappe is the most likely. So let's start with him. Kylian Mbappe, very little defensive presence. As you can see, Salah is very similar in that regard. A little better than Mbappe, just slightly, at least from a winger's perspective. As a forward, he's far better at intercepting, though. So if you were to look at Salah and Mbappe compared to wingers defensively, neither are spectacular. But for Mbappe's sake, Mbappe's defensive output as a forward is not that great, and is even worse as an attacking mid or a winger. But obviously, this is Kylian Mbappe we're talking about, one of the best, I'd say the best player in the world at the moment in terms of just being the complete package. He can score, he can assist, he's rapid, he's strong, he's clinical, he's good at dribbling. He's just the complete package of a player. And this scenario would basically require Mbappe to run down his contract at PSG and effectively reach a point where, Liverpool have, say, 200 mil from the transfer fee, plus whatever earnings they get from this season and the increased revenue from the expansion of the Anfield Road end. It basically puts Liverpool in a position where they could splurge on a player, especially someone like Mbappe, who is a future Ballon d'Or winner. And, you could give him, quite honestly, one of the best financial packages, that you could put forward ever for a Premier League player. And the allure of playing in the Premier League is probably something that interests Mbappe, but the tactical kind of question at stake here is, how does he fit in? He likes to play down the left channel. There's a lot of players that play down the left channel for Liverpool. Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Darwin Nunez, Diogo Jota, Carvalho when he gets back. Obviously, Mbappe is a lot better than like every one of those players. He's, like I said, the best player in the world. It's just, it doesn't matter in that case. You could figure out who's going to go on the right. I think Luis Diaz would do amazing on the right wing. I think Cody Gakpo would do good on the right wing. I think Jota could do a job on the right wing. And then you could have Darwin through the middle with Mbappe on the left. And that could be really, really special. but I think this is the least likely one to occur. And the second least likely one to occur, or maybe even less likely, is Bukayo Saka. Saka is also linked in the Athletic article a lot better in terms of defensive output than even Salah. If we're comparing attacking mids and wingers, those metrics are very, very exciting for a player of Bukayo Saka's, quality. And in this case, as was written in the article by The Athletic, you would expect that, especially now that he's got a £195,000 a week deal that expires in June 2027, that he recently renewed for, it would cost probably 200 mil. Let's be honest. It would cost a lot of money. So second least likely, I could rave about Bukayo Saka all day. He's an incredible player. And I think it's even less likely than Kylian Mbappe signing for Liverpool. But this would be a phenomenal inclusion as well. Jared Bowen is a player who's mentioned in the article. He's left-footed. He's the best defensively, I think, out of the whole lot. The worst offensively. But maybe with the current setup at Liverpool, getting someone like Bowen for significantly cheaper than, say, Mbappe or Bukayo Saka, and then reinvesting that money in a top quality center back or a DM, which is what is written at the end of the article by The Athletic. Instead of maybe buying it on a like for like replacement for Salah, you go and you invest in a number of positions, which could happen. And I think that would be an interesting route for Liverpool to go through as well. But Jared Bowen is someone who I highly admire. I think he's got 3 goals and assists in 4 matches so far in the Premier League across 360 minutes. That's incredible. And plus he is a little older. So, you could get him for a lot cheaper. He's not on as high of wages as either Bukayo Saka or Kylian Mbappe. And he would provide you with a whole different kind of tactical flexibility. He could play as a striker sometimes, likes to play as a right winger or a right mid more often than not. He's not the best passer. He's very direct, not extremely clinical, but I've seen him play a lot, and he's a talented player, and I wouldn't mind any of these players that are mentioned here. Next up is Takefusa Kubo, player who I've seen very little of, but at 22 years old, he is being touted as the closest like-to-like replacement for Mohamed Salah. And if you look at their stats, I mean, this is midfielders. Let's do attacking mids and wingers. It's obviously Salah is a lot more proficient, but not Saka, Kubo. So you look at this and it's incredible. The progressive carries are really high. The goals for an attacking mid or winger are high. In terms of being a midfielder, he's incredible at carrying the ball. He's not really a passer that much. Very forward-thinking player. And as for forwards, you look at those tackling numbers for forwards, and that's insane, especially for a player who's he's not that tall. He's 5'6". So it would be kind of a change of pace for Liverpool to go with someone like Kubo. But Kubo also 3 goals and assists. He looks absolutely lethal, and I'm pretty sure he used to play for Real Madrid. So definitely some talent there. Michael Olise, 21-year-old, talented baller of a player. He's just incredible. Represents the French national team, I believe. I think he's with France, right? And then Eze's with England. Yeah. I always mix up which one of them's French. But Michael Olise is a very, very progressive passing type of guy. He's not the most progressive, but you got to realize he's playing very far up the pitch, so it's kind of hard for him to be as progressive in those scenarios. But defensively, he's impressive as a winger. He gets a lot of assists. He had, I think, 11 or 12 last season, which is just insane. Imagine that in like a Liverpool midfield, with Szoboszlai and McAllister, and you have, say, Gakpo and Nunez, or Gakpo and Diaz, or Nunez and Diaz playing. That's very exciting. But personally, out of these, there's one more, Bakayoko. Let's continue with Bakayoko before I give my opinions on these, and then I go into my suggestions for 4 other players to round out this 10-man list. Bakayoko's stats are really impressive, but you got to realize he's being compared to the men's next 8 competitions, which is different from the big 5. Next 8 is like MLS, the Portuguese league, the Dutch league, etc., etc. But these numbers are remarkable for any league. He's only got an assist so far in his first 3 games, but you're expecting him to kind of, continue a bit. He didn't want to leave PSV this season, which is something I always admire from a player when they want to like fight for their team, especially when there's big interest from teams. Could have went to, I think, either Brentford or Burnley, but he chose to stay and fight for PSV. I mean, they are in the Champions League, so why not? Get your Champions League debut. And he seems like a hell of a player from all the highlights I've seen. I haven't seen a full game of his, but these stats are just remarkable for any player anywhere. And finally, we have some images from the Athletic article that I'm going to quickly just dissect. Michael Olise's attacking carries for Crystal Palace. You could just see that he carries the ball at a very kind of far distance. You look at like the starting points, which are these smaller circles, to the end points, and it's he'll carry it for a while. And if you imagine this with a Liverpool kind of setup, like a run from here to here, and passing it to say someone over here, it's insane. Like this is what Liverpool would want. Similar to Bowen. Bowen is another huge progressive carrier. You look at the length of some of these, that's almost like from the halfway line to the penalty box, and that's basically like a huge generation of chances that can come as a result, especially in a very attacking minded Liverpool side. West Ham is a little more conservative and defensive in nature, which would cause there to be slightly like, I would think, less scenarios that you could successfully convert these carries into like goals or assists from. Next is Takefusa Kubo, which is this interesting stat: 2,500 total minutes last season for Real Sociedad. And you look at the minutes share, and he's played 36% as a striker, 37% as a right winger, 8% as a cam, 10% as a left winger, and he's even played deeper as like a left mid or a right mid. I would assume that's depending on lineups and such. But this is a guy who could play all across the pitch. And I honestly think, he's a player who could provide Liverpool with a lot of flexibility tactically. He's very young, so Liverpool could, develop him even further. And, especially if, say, Endo is still there next season, Kubo, he has a effectively a mentor at Liverpool, which has always been kind of a big thing for Liverpool culturally as a club. You look at Adrian right now, or Milner in the past, or the likes of like Carragher, these older like veteran players who are from the same kind of nation, and they can integrate players. Virgil van Dijk's doing it with Cody Gakpo. He's doing it with Ryan Gravenberch now in terms of how they're integrating these players into the squad by basically having members of similar languages and cultures and nations that can help these players feel at home. And I think that's a big thing of hitting the ground running at clubs. Darwin Nunez, he has a lot more friends now, like McAllister. There was Diaz and Jota and Adrian as well. So that's a big boost. Bukayo Saka, finally, these are some more stats on him. He's obviously just getting better and better each season. And this season, he's looking great too. Those numbers are getting close to Salah's in terms of, if you're kind of mapping out the total progression of how his numbers are going to grow season on season, like eventually he'll be at Salah numbers, one would assume, if, if all holds well and he continues to develop at the rate he's developing. Next is Mohamed Salah. Oh, this is another one of the stats. Yeah, these two we went over. But finally, let me just go back to FB Ref and start with the first player that I think Liverpool could also consider amongst this list of generally and honestly very good options, I'd say. I'm not going to dive into like investing in other areas of the pitch. That was the final alternative listed by The Athletic, but I feel like that would just be it would kind of spread the video a little too thin. But first player up, this is a player who had an incredible season last season. I think he would be a phenomenal addition to Liverpool's forward line. I think he could play on the right wing potentially as well because he is 2-footed. Obviously, he's not immediately, a out and out right winger, but it is Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, player who won the Scudetto with Napoli last season, a player who will cost an arm and a leg to pry away from Napoli. I think it would be insanely expensive, especially because he is there until June 2027. He doesn't have the highest of wages, so Liverpool could easily convince him to join in terms of that context, and he's very young as well. I absolutely rate Kvaratskhelia. He's just such a phenomenal player. Like every time I see him play or every highlight I see from him, it's like an otherworldly dribbling maneuver or just an incredible shot. So I think he'd be a great addition. Next up, this is actually a player who's here already. We're gonna go to Karo Mitoma. Karo Mitoma is older as well. He is a player who, has been in the Premier League for a couple seasons now. He's done well. He's scoring and assisting more. He's there's the meme about him being, out of this world like dribbler because he got his PhD in dribbling and that's what he wrote his thesis on. That's all fun and games, but this man's a true baller when it comes to it. He is a player who I highly, 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 highly rate. Premier League proven now, I'd say. He is older. He's around Bowen's age profile, but I still think he'd be a phenomenal addition. It would cost a lot knowing how Brighton operate, but his wages aren't that high. So similar, it says unverified? Unverified estimations. Okay, so forget the wages. Wages shouldn't be too much of a concern, but I think Karo Mitoma will be an amazing addition for Liverpool, especially on the right. Because him and Luis Diaz with Nunez through the middle, that is something to behold. Next up, and I know this is another player who isn't necessarily a right winger. There hasn't been too many on this list, but Rafael Leao, another player who I think could play down the right if converted to it. I think he could do an absolute number on the Premier League if he were to play. And plus, his just pace would be incredible alongside Salah. I don't think I should say much else because I feel like he speaks for himself, quite frankly. He's already proven that he's quality. He got to the semifinal of the Champions League, then he was out injured, unfortunately, but he's a quality player. And I think he would slot right into Liverpool's forward line. And I know I said I was going to say 4, but we'll say 5. We'll have 11 players here. But because I forgot about Karim Adeyemi, who is left-footed. He could play as a right winger if you need him to. And he is very similar to Salah in terms of just how, absolutely explosive and direct he is. He's absolutely rapid. He hasn't scored yet in the Bundesliga, so he'd probably be slightly lower on my list. But he's still an incredible player, and I think Liverpool would really benefit from getting somebody who is left-footed to play on the right wing, like strictly left-footed. But I think he'd be a great addition. I really rate Karim Adeyemi, and I wouldn't mind if Liverpool signed him. Finally, the 5th player, also on this list, Moussa Diaby. Moussa Diaby just signed for Aston Villa this season. He is, 24, 25 years old. Liverpool signed Salah when he was 26. So I've always thought that age profile isn't that big of a concern. But as you can see, the most similar player to Moussa Diaby in the last year or so is Mohamed Salah. And you look at these stats, and defensively speaking, you look right here. That's similar to Mbappe's defensive stats as an attacking mid or winger for Moussa Diaby, but those non-penalty goals are absolutely up there. Mbappe, it's higher than Saka's even. It's absolutely frightening numbers, and I think as a versatile forward who could play on the left, who could play on the right, Moussa Diaby would be a perfect fit. He's left-footed. Out of the players I listed, Kvaratskhelia, I listed Moussa Diaby, I listed Adeyemi, I listed Who else did we just talk about? Leao and Kvaratskhelia, Leao. It was Kvaratskhelia, Leao, Adeyemi, Matoma. Yeah. So Kvaratskhelia, Leao, Matoma, Adeyemi, and Musa Diaby. Out of those 5 players, I think Liverpool would be wise to say go for someone like in this 26 age profile. So maybe like say go big on someone like Kvaratskhelia or Adeyemi, and then bring in someone like Musa Diaby or Matoma as well. I think that'd be huge. They could have the funds for it as well. Who knows? But that is the video. Comment down below. Who do you think should replace Mohamed Salah when the time comes? Most likely, hopefully, next summer. I honestly would love for him to retire at Liverpool, but knowing the situation, knowing the state of affairs, it's more than likely that he's going to leave. So who would you have him be replaced by? How would you want Liverpool to use the 150 to 200 mil that's being estimated as a transfer fee in the market? And what do you think of this 11-man list of players? Who's your favorite from the list? And thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing if you found out anything new, or if you enjoyed watching the video. For all your Premier League, Liverpool, and just general football content needs, consider subscribing to the Sideline Sedo YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.